Well, since the new Scott Pilgrim anime is out now, and the algorithm will be busy with Scott Pilgrim stuff for a while, I figured it was finally time to actually check out the movie I've been hearing about for years now, but never really sat down to watch. And before you get at me for not watching when I had the chance, just remember, so did you. And you know what? I'm glad I watched it. Not only is it a hidden gem of a movie, but I can actually go farther in saying that it's quite an underrated masterpiece that should have gotten more love in the past. The movie, which is based on the comic of the same name, is about Scott Pilgrim and his misadventures and quest to date Ramona Flowers by defeating her 7 evil exes, and honestly, that's about it when it comes to plot. The movie may be simple in plot, but hopefully makes up for thanks to various key factors. First, the characters in this movie are really easy to connect to and really understand along the way. Each character from the main set to the evil exes and side characters really have moments to really showcase the personalities and how they act towards one another. Scott Pilgrim, while personally not a good person in his action in the comic and the movie, does whatever he can to try to be a better person by the end of it and move past it, and we can't help but feel that moral connection towards his quest to get better. The same you said for Ramona about where she starts at the beginning to where she ends up in the end. The actors here do an amazing job embodying these characters and their flaws and really brings them to life in their own ways. This is probably the best casted movie ever. Everyone also has standout moments that really tells you about their characters and how they play into their actions, both positively and not so positively. Except Knives, she did nothing wrong. Next, the level of comedy in this movie is honestly pretty high as it makes heavy use of both verbal and physical humor. What I mean by this is, one moment you have a character in a verbally comedic phone scene, and in the next moment a character flies out a window. The movie is filled with both styles of humor as well as visual cues that really work well off each other, and of course, delivered well by the cast, which makes sense given writer-director Edgar Wright's past track record. Finally, the biggest strength that this movie has are the action fight scenes in it. If you haven't read the comics, you may think this movie is about a relationship and trying to navigate the exes in a normal fashion, but for the world of Scott Pilgrim, when he has to defeat the 7 evil exes, he has to defeat them in combat, and it looks amazing. The combination of actual physical hand-to-hand combat with special effects added in really adds a particular flair of uniqueness that the movie already excels at. The fight scenes are even more impressive when you see just how much they took off the page of the original comic and brought to real life. I'm even more surprised by the actors in this movie really being the ones doing the fight scenes. That's extra dedication right there that just shows you how much the people involved in making this movie love the comic and wants to do it justice. I also really love the video game aesthetic that the movie goes for to really hammer home the fight scenes and give another layer of identity for itself. The movie overall has a unique blend of all these elements to make for a pretty entertaining movie that was way ahead of its time with being a faithful adaptation of a story, even though it didn't adapt all of it. Being an almost 2-hour long movie, it does enough to adapt most of the main plot of the comic, but not all of it. Scenes that are in the comic but not in the movie are either ignored or mentioned briefly, and I feel while it was implied well enough, you could have had a bigger impact with actually showing or diving more into these moments. Like Scott and Kim's relationship could have been explored more, or Ramona's life outside of her time with Scott, or even more side characters and scenes that could have been added to the plot to make up for their short time in the movie. Sure, the runtime would have been a bit longer, but I'm sure the fans wouldn't mind it one bit. But that's pretty much my only takeaway from watching the movie. Overall, it does an excellent job of bringing to life the comic and having the freedom and fun to really go all out as much as it can to do that. Outside of that, if you haven't read the comic, then it's still a fun movie to watch and experience. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is a masterpiece that didn't deserve to be ignored when it first came out, but thanks to word of mouth and a dedicated fan base, it was able to live on as a cult film and will continue to do that for years to come. Nothing really more to say, this is an awesome movie.